Welcome one and all to episode 198 of Tactical Crouch for the week. And this is the show where we talk about the fact that BlizzCon is cancelled. McCree has his new name finally. And Joe spends most of his week chopping wood in preparation for the show. So, Joe, how much wood you got? You're lumberjacking away. I'm just regularly jacking away. And how much wood do you got?
You know, it's up there.
Glad that Yiska did an audible laugh this time for our Spotify viewers.
Just to let everybody know that he is laughing and that it isn't just some sort of, weird asthmatic old man,
Oh, this is it's the perverted mind laugh, of course.
Hey man, whatever you're into, right? I'm into weird wood. Yiska's into strange anime TikToks, so reach down.
Is he actually?
No. Who knows? Tune into episode 200 to find out.
The weird part is I believed you, so I'm just I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
You'll never find out.
No.
Much like I won't find out about Overwatch 2 ever.
Correct.
Right. Much like we won't find out who. I was going to bring up a player who's some rumored players where we don't actually know where people are going just yet. But we won't talk about that apparently. Do
you guys have any Halloween plans? Anything coming up?
Yeah.
Any costumes? What's going on, Yiska? What's up with you? What are you doing on the 31st?
We are going to the Monday is a German holiday, which is nice. And then over Sunday, everyone has to pick two Halloween movies, and we're just binging through it, 8 movies or something like this. Just
I'm the biggest movie watcher I know. Every week it's just
I didn't used to be like this.
Now that we're done Tactical Crush, I'm gonna go watch a movie, and not just sitting at home. I'm putting something on the TV. You're physically going out to a cinema, weekly.
Yeah, because we have a card that allows us to go into the cinema as often as we want for a fee.
You also have friends in real life.
Yes, that's also true.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Recommend that very much.
I should cancel the Mercy cosplay that we got for you for BlizzCon. That's a no-go.
I mean, this year I might fit it actually, but
okay, well that's good.
Yeah,
keeping his boyish figure. Much like Yiska, many people are, as AVRL mentioned, kind of upset that BlizzCon is going by the wayside this year. They're reimagining it, but you don't have to reimagine. Your nether region grooming. That's why support for this show, this episode of Tactical Crouch, is brought to you by Manscaped, who offers the men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. They are the best in the business. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Boys, I'm going to give you a pop, surprise trivia for a moment. What do the Dave Matthews Band and the Overwatch League have in common?
I don't even know who the Dave Matthews Band is.
That's okay. The space between your nether regions, the below the belt, they're the champions of it. You want to clean up that space. Maybe just a little hint on maybe who we're talking about rather today. When it comes to, keeping your 3-piece set nice and healthy, nice and fresh. You don't want any kind of McGravy on them. You want to keep your wrecking balls nice and clean, so you use that Crop Reviver. Now, if you want to get real smooth, clean, testicular fortitude, you don't want to have any kind of funny AstroTurf down there. Use that Lawnmower 4.0 with that 4K LED, 4000K LED, mind you. Spotlight to keep you nice and trimmed up. Now, if that seems attractive to you, if that's something that you're interested in, you can use 20% off and get free shipping with Tactical Crouch as the promo code. That's all caps Tactical Crouch, no space, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use promo code Tactical Crouch to unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for your job or for the job with Manscaped, and your wrecking balls will thank you.
That's for you, Joe. There it is. Make sure you plug that code in, get your offering, and get ready, because I got some more Overwatch news this week. Obviously, I mean that's really what we talk about. This show really exists because teams are still picking up players. I can't wait for the week when actually no teams make any roster moves. And we're like, damn,
What are we talking about?
We're finally gonna have to talk about Overwatch 2. And you know what? There's also no news there, so we actually don't have anything to talk about if that's the case. We have our very special episode 200 coming up, and won't ruin any surprises for what that is going to entail just yet. But it's going to be a different type of episode. We're trying something a little bit different in a good way, and hopefully you'll all enjoy it. But it's still 2 episodes away. We're on to 198, which is obviously also, as well as Manscaped, brought to you by lovely patrons: Battle Crab, Refined Bean, Bronzebot Boohow, Chare, Chris R3444, and Frodino, Hunter Tane, Porkchop Sammy, Cash67, Lulshin, Rex Zane, Volamel and Sugar, High, Volamel Smooth Nuts, and Your Misery. So got a couple of Volamel shoutouts in there. And also our YouTube members as well: Fire Element 6, Ice Ham Jello, Grow Roots, AK, and Chris R. Which I don't know if Chris R is related to Chris R34444, but they might be related. They might be the same person. If it is, thank you twice.
We love Chris.
But
I have a funny feeling it is.
We're gonna get into our first topic of the day. It's been on screen. If you're listening to Spotify, you wouldn't have seen that thing on screen, but it's on screen right now. It's the BlizzCon blog post where they've announced that they are not going to be doing a BlizzCon in February of next year. So what does that really mean? What kind of implications does that have? I think it's good. I think it's like kind of big enough news that you want to kind of talk about that, where there might be some extra details in there that if you want to read between the lines, or I don't want to use the word consequences, but definitely like there's going to be some residual effects, right, of what this kind of means for all Blizzard titles, and especially Overwatch moving forward if BlizzCon is not part of the mix for February next year. And who knows, maybe November next year they might think about doing something else again. Maybe it won't come back for a long time. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people, especially within our neck of the woods, but in gaming in general, tend to look forward to. Not only is it kind of a gathering of the nerds in a very beloved way, I use that term lovingly. It is still a showcase for a AAA developer, or I guess a conglomerate of developers at this point, with King and Activision and Blizzard all kind of being wrapped up within one showcase. I guess my only thought on this is that I hope there's something in the interim, or some sort of increased communication. At least with Overwatch, we constantly hear that, like, oh yeah, we're going to try and communicate more, and we're going to, talk to you guys and give you updates more frequently. And am I wrong in feeling that it feels like lip service a lot of the time? I hope that this isn't the case, and that we do get something else.
You say it could be lip service, but in my opinion, I think the intention is there. The execution is completely not.
Sure, yeah,
and that's not because they're trying to lie. This is giving a lot of benefit of the doubt, so to be very clear about that. I don't think they're necessarily like lying, because if you don't want to be transparent, you don't want to give information, you just don't say anything. You're just like, no, you don't even make an announcement that says we would like to be more transparent. You don't even do that. You just simply don't do anything. But if you're going to put it out on record that you want to be more transparent, you want to give more updates, then I do believe that every intention was to do so. But that doesn't mean that it always pans out that way. And this is maybe making me making some excuses on their behalf. But things can change. Whether that can be maybe they fall behind in production and development, maybe they fall behind in, or maybe something goes wrong. Maybe they were developing something that was looking pretty promising, and then they have to kind of take a couple steps back because it doesn't work out the way they thought they would. And what they were going to be transparent and announce something and talk about something publicly, but then they can't because they have to kind of scrap something they were working on. Could have been a new hero, could have been a new feature that they had to scrap, could be a bunch of things. So it ends up being that we did have some stuff to announce, but now we don't. And that's just giving them a lot of benefit of the doubt here. So, but I would like to see, especially the Overwatch team, but all of the Blizzard team, because I'm still interested in what's happening with Diablo 4. To see if they will make some announcements on their own outside of BlizzCon, because I do believe in that blog post there was a statement made about that. We have a lot of exciting upcoming news and releases to share with you. You'll continue hearing about those through our franchise channels, with the talented people at BlizzCon team playing a part in supporting these efforts. That's kind of what they said in terms of if there could be more announcements, which is basically a very bland, there probably will be, but we're not going to commit to anything.
Yeah. I think what we also need to realize is BlizzConline already is like 4 months late. theoretically speaking, right? Like last year, I think it was in February. Usually BlizzCon is in November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, first weekend in November.
Yeah.
So we are already behind, so to speak, and I think 4 months was a fair like duration of delay because of the global pandemic. But I will say that it is pretty weird to not have this. I understand that they probably don't have the con feeling as much. I agree that it probably takes a lot of time. They say like they want to reimagine what BlizzCon is. I feel like a lot of Activision Blizzard's strategy is still to like brick and mortar store type of focus. So I really hope that they move more of their approach towards the adjustment of their strategy, generally speaking, into the virtual space. And to be honest, like, yes, BlizzConline didn't feel like a BlizzCon, even for those that were watching from home, because a very big part of the situation was the interaction. Like, we had a lot of great moments through the years because of BlizzCon, right? Like, it starts with like Red Shirt Guy. Like, some guy points out like there's a lore mistake in the game, and the developers are like, "Wait, you're right. Let's get that fixed for you." And this guy then makes it into World of Warcraft, right? And they've again and again each year been very interesting interactions. It's memed. It's like it becomes like sort of like Blizzard universe canon. It's like this cool cultural thing that we currently can't have, but the opportunity would have been to make it scalable, to make it virtual, and to sort of like try to follow and step into the same battle that companies like Epic are currently fighting, where they are moving more into the virtual space. And yes, like I gotta use the buzzword, but like moving towards metaversial product lines that are integratable and could make advances there. And I've written an article, it must have been over a year ago by now, saying exactly that we're not doing that as much. And the only thing that we did have at the time was like the virtual studio for Overwatch League Season 3 playoffs, right? Like that's what we got. I will say like last year they were at least exploring concepts. This year, unfortunately, there wasn't really anything in that regard, right? So yeah, I wish this company was more future facing and not as resting on its laurels of a pastime, right?
If I read you correctly, what you're asking for, Yiska, is you would like the next BlizzCon virtually to be held within World of Warcraft, and then you'd all get your WoW characters, and you'd all sit around the, I don't know, not a bonfire, maybe a really large bonfire. You all sit around the World Tree. I don't play World of Warcraft, and then you sing Kumbaya, and then there it is. There's
okay.
What's his face comes on, and then
okay,
you have a little concert.
Real talk. There were sad years in my life where I definitely celebrated, let's say, New Year's in World of Warcraft. Like friends were all over the world studying there. But like that experience made it better to be with virtual friends that were in a similar boat and celebrate there, and it didn't feel less genuine.
That's just a very advanced Zoom call, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So it's not that sad. I mean, I think some people would potentially celebrate in that way. So look, if people are willing to celebrate on a Zoom call, you're just doing it with more steps involved. So I don't mind it as much as I'm memeing on it because it's funny. I don't mind it either. But it would be sad. What would actually be sad, genuinely, is if like a live in-person BlizzCon never happened again ever.
Yeah.
I think, you know, despite having never been to one, it's one of my biggest regrets to have never gone to one. But I never had the means to go to one previously, and I didn't get hired for World Cup. And yeah, I didn't quite get the opportunities to go to one. You know, when I probably felt like I would have been, you know, I felt like I could have a fair chance to maybe be there. Funny enough, like I think 2019, 2019, what ended up happening was that I turned down something as well in 2019 where there was a whole World Cup thing happening in 2019 for Overwatch. It was the last year World Cup, by the way. And a bunch of the teams had to self-fund their way there, and one of those teams was Team New Zealand. And eventually they did self-fund their own way there, and they did actually manage to go over there through, I can't remember what they did, but they somehow got the money for it. And I was offered originally to be part of that committee team again, because I was so in 2017, and try and build a team and get them over there, and myself probably go over there as well. I turned that down because I was expecting to be hired for World Cup that year, and also because I would have felt like it would be weird if I went part of a team,
and then
I'd be that guy on a team instead of the guy that's meant to be working there.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just like me chilling with my team and like, hey guys, just waving at the casters like, hello. No, that wasn't gonna be me. I wasn't gonna be doing that. So I turned that down. So I've never been to BlizzCon. And I would love it if they did another in-person one. And I probably would just go as a fan. I think I'm committed enough that like in future, I'm in a better place financially as well. So that it's like if I was going to plan a holiday, that would be like a potential holiday I would plan. Whether I would be working there or not, it wouldn't matter to me. I would want to go as a fan at the next one if there was going to be one. So I think having an in-person, because you're right, Yiska, like the sort of interpersonal part of it is what's important. Like the part where you get to interact with I don't know, the developers in the games and see the new stuff, get the announcements, play the betas and play the whatever build they have at BlizzCon and meet all the other fans and do all the cool stuff. That to me is what it's really about. And if I don't care as much as about the announcements, I guess I care about it, but I care about it in a way where like I could technically just watch all of that stuff at home. I think the thing I would care more about is the ability to have a thing that gathers people together in real life. So in a world without COVID, hopefully a November sometime soon we'll get that. And it makes me sad because we're nearly at November now. Actually, depending on when you listen to watch this episode, you might already be in November. So, where you just reminded me of the date and looked at the date now, it's like, man, we are like a week away from when BlizzCon normally would be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And like, I also feel, even though they said it wouldn't be like this, I feel like this is at least an indicator that we might get delayed information about those games. Because, yes, like you're saving a lot of time, by the way, and I think people probably are aware that like preparing for BlizzCon takes everyone's time, even the developers and whatnot. Like getting stuff ready for presentations. Sometimes you want to have a like on-scene beta client or alpha client that visitors can play on. So that's a draw and stuff like that. That takes all the preparation. And let's be honest, as a company right now, Activision Blizzard, but especially the Blizzard portion, is working on big projects that need finishing. That's true for Diablo 4. That's true for Overwatch 2. I feel like I'm missing something else.
World of Warcraft 2. Oh, sorry, that hasn't been announced yet. My bad.
I mean, I'm sure they're on the next expansions, like developing content there. Like all of this, wouldn't we be up, by the way, for an announcement of a new Blizzard expansion? World of Warcraft expansion this BlizzCon, theoretically, like bi-cycle? I feel like that's true, yeah. So, like, there's a lot that they need to deliver, and if due to delays or, I mean, let's be honest, company difficulties and departures, everything is delayed, then cutting this makes sense, because I think a lot of people would rather have the games than like much sooner than the BlizzCon situation. Also, just because how few people are actually being served by the BlizzCon.
Well, I got to tell you something though, Yiska. Here's the other angle you have to look at it from is that BlizzCons typically year by year serve as a sort of a deadline for developers. In a way where like you have to have X or Y done in time for BlizzCon because you got to show this thing at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
X or Y build has to be playable at BlizzCon. So it does put a deadline on developers, which I think this is debatable, but it could be is kind of like a healthy thing in a way. And people say like, oh no, but then what about the crunch and stuff? And it's like, well, sure, but then there's also the thing where like you just go in perpetual development cycles and development hell where like, all right, well now you don't have a deadline, you could just do whatever the fuck you want. I'm sure it's not as I'm sure like what I just said might like sound even offensive to a developer because it's like I'm sure like internally there are deadlines. Like I just insinuated there are no deadlines. Like that's ridiculous. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is like BlizzCon was a very clear mark in the line in the sand
Mhm.
where you needed to have some shit done and have some shit like ready to go. That's public facing, because there's a difference between that deadline and internal deadline that says, "Hey, do this thing by this time." If it's different when you're doing it internally, and it's different when you then have to show that to a public, right? That's these are two completely separate things in two different ballparks, indeed. So,
I mean, let's be honest. Like being very creative and being very conscientious doesn't necessarily go hand in hand. Like a lot of the creatives I know do their best work an hour before the deadline, right? And like enforcing hard deadlines.
That's also where some of the worst work comes as well. We're like, well, I'm just got to get it done. So,
Yeah, but creative work is a lot of overthinking, I feel like. There's a lot of like you wanna like cram this in and this isn't perfect. Like sometimes you just gotta say, you know what, it's good enough, bro. Just get it out. Like you gotta get this thing finished. By the way, your facial reactions for the podcast listeners that are only listening to audio, Joe is just like in a constant state of nodding or asking himself, "Oh, is that true? Is that true?"
Yeah.
I think you need if you are doing an action or a face that audio listeners can't see, I need you to describe that face. So while Yiska's talking, Joe's gonna come and is like, "By the way, I'm doing a nodding, smiling face right now," and then but continue, Yiska, keep going. So Joe just needs to do that
say
from now
the
on.
Okay.
Twitch emote out loud. Okay.
Joe.
Sure.
I'm currently doing a Pepe laugh. Continue though. That's what you got to do.
Hello, fellow
Anyway, so
Zoomers.
Joe's doing his Pepe laugh, and you were saying, Yiska.
Yeah, and then I mean, let's be honest. A lot of those people also got in not just to please them employers, but to please the crowd, and that additional weight of like wanting to present to the world instead of like now like and meet the people and interact when they get to see the thing you made first might just be additional. Can you please say the emote that you just made?
No Twitch emotes that are like, yeah, maybe. Like what would that be? And translate that into Twitch.
Use a Windows Microsoft emote. I don't know, man. Why are you only like
thinking emoji? Yeah,
emoji.
You're only using Twitch emotes. Come on, you get a little bit more creative than that. You can use YouTube emotes. Sorry, they don't exist, but you can use any emotes. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, I think you're completely right in saying that this will definitely. It does say as much about the development cycle as it will impact it. Let's say that.
Yeah.
I think you need like, this is where, you know, I'm like shifting topics slightly as well, where you guys remember when there was that internal milestone that was announced for the quarterly whatever, and then it turns out, I'm pretty sure it turned out to be that the milestone was that they had basically feature locked the game, and a bunch of people who don't understand how the world works kind of got uppity about it. I was like, oh no, they're gonna be rushing the development now. Oh, it's gonna be cyberpunk, like, you know, how the internet normally goes, and they only work in binary extremes where, you know, oh, if it's not the best thing in the world, there must be like a total apocalypse, right? So they go to the straight other side. They go from 11 to like a -1 in emotions. So they go to the -1. It's like, oh, it's gonna be cyberpunk. It's like, or maybe the development team needs to lock the fuck down what they need to do, so we're not perpetually in development until literally 2077. So you know, it's important, because you're not wrong, Yiska. Like, you know, sometimes it's about just locking it in and being like, all right, we need to stop theory crafting and just actually get to work. Otherwise, you're not going to have a game out. Otherwise, you're going to be Anthem, where you spend the first 5 years of your 7-year development cycle fucking thinking and brainstorming and writing the whiteboard, and then in your last 2 years fucking crunching with extra studios piling in the work to then release a game that's not finished. You need to lock down your features and work on the damn game. Is what it is. And then, again, I'm being real general about how it all works. There's a lot more steps involved in that. It's a little bit more complex than that. I understand. So I don't want any developers thinking that, you know, I'm generalizing it too much. I am generalizing a lot, but I'll at least admit that I'm doing that. So, you know, I'm on the same page with you. But yeah, I would like to have some hopium that it does mean that we can get a proper BlizzCon at some point in the future to bring us back around to the main topic, and that I do hope that, however, that BlizzCon being cancelled isn't some like then signed for the dev teams to not give us announcements and just to do their own thing again, where we're not going to hear anything until who the hell knows when. because ideally we hear something before BlizzCon. Because I in my mind thought like, well, that means we're probably originally that we were probably going to get some news at BlizzCon, which is in February. That's still 4 months away or 3-ish months away. Whereas now that you're not, tied down to BlizzCon, you can do an announcement whenever you need to. And I hope that they do one earlier rather than later. Any quick final thoughts? We're going to move on. We're going to go to the next thing. Done. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Speaking about things that were cut out, that's actually not a nice way to put it. I feel bad for that comment. But Dpei is no longer with the Gladiators. So
that was a whole thing, huh?
David Pei, who's been there the entire time. He was the last coach. He was the last coach that had been with the same team since the beginning of Overwatch, right? Overwatch League.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. So that's it. And now that he's gone, no coach on any team has been with the same team the entire 4 seasons.
Yes.
I think it is sad. It is sad because he was kind of holding up that banner for a while, and I think he successfully led that team. It's kind of weird and funny how public sentiment changes so quickly. And I won't try and pretend like this is all the same people, because obviously different people online will say different things. So maybe all the Dpei haters shut the fuck up really quickly when he announced that he was leaving. Or maybe they did change their tone and tune and they hopped over to the other side of the fence. But you had a lot of like, even though Glads still made a reasonable run and they lost to 2 of the tournament finalists in this playoffs, as they normally do, actually, they for some reason always end up facing up against the tournament finalists, and that's what gets them knocked out. And they were very close. If they had beaten Atlanta, they probably would have been in the finals, in my opinion. But that's another point. People were still angry. People were still angry at Glads, angry at Dpei. I'm like, no, you got to fire Dpei. He's got to be done. Those people were placated for a while. They're like, your Dpei wins Summer Showdown, not Summer Showdown, Countdown Cup, but that's apparently still not good enough for some people, because people will say like, oh, but you didn't beat Shanghai, you didn't beat Dallas. I was like, well, okay, well, they also didn't. Who cares? They got a title. They beat who they needed to. They beat top teams anyway. They still beat Shanghai. Sorry, they still beat Chengdu. It's not like they just walked through without any solid competition. That was still hard for them to do.
Yep.
And so, they were all the people that were like, fire Dpei, fire Dpei, fire Dpei, then either decided to hop over the fence or say nothing when Dpei announced that he was actually leaving. And then you'll see all the good supportive comments come out and be like, oh yeah, Dpei was actually really good. It's just so weird, the kind of like, I don't know, the almost, can I say, bipolarism of like how fan bases think about this kind of stuff. It's like, it's on one side you fire Dpei and the other side was like, no, Dpei's been great the entire time. And it's just so weird to me. But I personally felt like he did a great job and he was really good. His team was super consistent, had always made playoffs.
Yep.
Plenty of teams have done so much worse than that. His only crime is apparently never having properly won anything, but he actually got Countdown Cup, so I give that to him.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that in general, I think the criticism that maybe not living up to expectations maybe has some weight, but I think you have to kind of put that to bed, at least with this last roster, whom I think performed up to, if not meeting the expectations, maybe even, exceeding them in some areas. It's sad. Obviously, it seems like there was some dilemmas, let's say, with how or why or just the entire departure in general. But I should
go and explain the departure.
I mean,
for the people that don't understand.
So again, I'm paraphrasing this. There was some
record, so
okay, fair. I think there was some pushback regarding comments made from his camp, from the Gladiators management, on how it happened, well, maybe perhaps why it happened. There are Twitlongers and Reddit threads and all kinds of stuff, so check that out if you're interested. I'm not going to get into speculating as to why, but it seems like there was some, again, dilemma circumstance that is trying to be hinted at with these. But yeah, I won't. It doesn't detract away from his kind of legacy, I'd say.
I feel like if I was someone that was not informed about what happened to the whole Dpei departing Glads, I still don't really know after you explain it, Joe.
Yeah, it's kind of just a mess.
It is a mess, and I'll give you one more. Everyone that keeps speculating these threats and using language with such high certainty, shut the fuck up. You don't know shit about shit.
It's the internet. It's the internet where people that are never qualified to speak on these things, even I don't even consider myself super qualified to speak on what the hell happened there because I don't know either. But the people who know even less than us use like extremely certain words, like, "Oh, this is exactly what happened." Like, really? Is it?
Dude,
were you there?
People gotta realize that there doesn't have to be an evil person in every story. This is life. Real life is not a Disney movie where there's a villain and there's a superhero. It is entirely possible. It's entirely possible that two competent individuals were interacting or more in that scenario, going after the best interest of all parties involved, and this still transpired. It is also possible that if we have full access to a video recording of that final interaction, we still wouldn't get a fraction of what actually transpired, because the chances of this situation like breaking just in that moment is 0 to none. And competitive surroundings are inherently going to be high emotion. This is not a job. Like, you go to your job for 8 hours, then you come home, maybe you fire one email back, and then you're emotionally detached unless your manager pisses you off. This is a lifestyle. This is an all or everything for darn near 9 months a year. And 3 months, granted, you can probably sufficiently piss off and do something else. And without speculating, without any like behind the scenes knowledge, is, I guess I get it's fun. I get you, like, I know you really want the drama. Like, you want to pretend that you're not doing like Desperate Housewives right here. You're doing the equivalent, my friend. Like, when you're on every drama but discussing zero gameplay discussions, and those are the threats that are always hitting top front page. This scene is, and to be fair, most esports are all about the drama, and esports is a lie.
You can just replace the word esports with real life, right? The amount of people that buy tabloids and lap that shit up, caring about who had extramarital affairs with who, Jesus Christ. The amount of, and here's the things about economics and the way the world works for people that don't realize, the supply and demand. That shit wouldn't exist if there wasn't a demand for it.
Yeah.
People are just giving a supply to something there's a demand for. There's enough people out there that demand drama that the supply is there. That's why you have all the TMZ BS. TMZ wouldn't exist if there wasn't such a huge demand for drama. I don't know what it is, but human beings, and this is why this is where I can't fault people too hard. The only thing I can fault is everyone's lack of awareness of the fact that like you are contributing to bullshit drama. But for some reason, human beings are subconsciously drawn to drama, and they love that shit. And there's that discussion like way back, not even way back, just recently actually, about how like, oh, a rumor's good or bad for the esport, and there's a back and forth on there. And here's the thing about it: doesn't can I just say that question is entirely irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad for it.
Yeah.
The more question is, why do people want it? And at the end of the day, people want the leaks and rumors because it's fun and spicy and it's drama. There's drama involved in there as well, whether you like to believe that or not. And people want that shit. For every person that's like, oh man, rumors, they ruin the announcements and they ruin X and Y things. For every one person that says that, there's 20 motherfuckers that are like, where's the next rumor? Oh, I want to know the next leak. Give me the next leak. There's 20 people like that.
Yeah.
So they outnumber the people that don't like the leaks by like 20-fold, if not way more. This is just how it is.
Yeah, and I don't mind the people that are straight up with their desires and just say how it is. I respect that more than people rationalizing their bullshit idea why leaks are healthy or whatever they are. Just say you want it, dude. Just like,
say you like drama. Just say you like drama. Just say that. That's truth.
Yeah.
You know, I
can deal with that.
I'd be like, well, you're just being a human being. You're being a human being that lacks self-awareness, which is probably 99% of the population of the Earth. That's how it is.
Yeah. On some topics for sure, but like, I mean, that's also when others need to step in and just put a mirror in front of your face and say, "That's happening, dude." Like,
take a damn good hard look at yourself. Okay, let me clear it up. Let me clear it up because we still haven't really explained. So, okay, this
Right.
is my understanding. I'm gonna stick to basically the facts of what people have said. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, and I'm not gonna inject my own opinion. What it is essentially, Dpei did not want to leave Gladiators initially. Yes, it was his choice. He didn't get fired. That's been very firmly established. He was not fired. He chose to leave, but he wanted to stay because the part of the criticism was that, oh, why did he leave so late? If he wanted to go, why didn't he go earlier? And that's true because if he went earlier, then I don't know, maybe Ty Dolla stays, maybe he gets promoted, maybe they figure it out and it's all a bit more smooth. That's what we call an amicable departure. This was not amicable. There were burnt bridges here for sure, and that's just a fact of it. That's why it was so sudden, is because I'm sure both parties originally had it in their minds that Dpei was going to stay, and I think both parties would have been happy to have Dpei stay. But there was something that went on. And by the way, this wouldn't have just happened in the space of one meeting. This would have been happening over potentially the entire year or the entire 4 years that Dpei has been with the Gladiators in terms of the back and forth between the management. But it probably boils down to a single meeting where the straw broke the camel's back. And, the meeting comes down to potential disagreements between Dpei and the Gladiators management. I believe there was some frustration coming from Dpei's side. I wouldn't be surprised if there's frustration coming from the other side as well. Some words were said, some unsavory things said about each party. I believe from Dpei's account, he wasn't happy about how Gladiators were talking to him in that meeting, and apparently they had said some things that were, in his mind, irreconcilable. Like you can't come back from that. Like both parties had supposedly gone quite a bit too far off the deep end. This is the kind of situation where, like, in a professional setting, you should probably just take a bit of a break, have a breather, go outside, get a drink, have a smoke if that's what you need to do, and then come back and continue. Or maybe don't come back and continue and wait till the next day, sleep it off. But obviously, you're in the heat of the moment. I get this. Look, I've been in this type of situations. I've seen it. I've seen things happen. Right? This is how humans work as well. It's just like, yeah, both parties have a flag planted to the ground, and they chose the hills that they were going to die on. Glads wanted to die on a certain hill, and David wanted to die on a different hill, and neither party wanted to budge. And at that point, if no one gives up and no one, if you don't walk away and someone like, okay, let's meet in the middle. If you don't have that conversation, both parties, you draw the border, you draw the line, and then you have to separate. And so Dpei ends up leaving. He's like, we can't come back from this. I don't want to work for you anymore. You don't want to work with me. We cannot work together anymore. We cannot both coexist in the same environment. There has to be something gone. And that's the sort of space where either Glad's management departs, which is not going to ever happen, or Dpei goes, and Dpei understands, I'm probably going to go. So he leaves. And then, and basically fast forward is here we are. And that's why the departure was so sudden, because it had to come down to a specific moment in time that had to break the camel's back, and ended up being that moment, and that's how it was. And obviously Dpei was quite emotional about it, understandably. He releases a statement very early before Glads can do anything about it. They rush out a farewell video, and then boom, Dpei's probably on the free agency market now. I think he's looking for a new team, and hopefully he'll find success somewhere. I still think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, for sure. I hope other teams don't take that situation too seriously as to, like, say something about his ability as a head coach. I will say, and this is public knowledge, I think before this season, I had Brenda on from the Glads, and they talked she talked about the hardships they had in the off season between season, was it season 3 or season 4? Or season 2 and 3, season 3. No, it would have to be last off season. So no, this one, the one that beforehand, where they were just very late to everything. Like, if you're late to the off season, that's a massive, like, I think people need to realize this is some of the most stressful times of the year. Like, you are laying the foundation. Like, a lot of what you do won't matter next year unless you do your job now. And everyone's rushing. Like, the managerial competition is never higher than now. Like, staff competition in terms of, like, what actually happens in a moment to moment, like every minute right now matters in terms of staff so much more than at any other point in the season. Yes, also during the grand finals. Like the share of like what you do, how important that is currently maximally involved. I think it's that that value goes down right now because a lot of the top agents are already off the market, but like securing the support or like recruiting players like Proper and whatnot will absolutely determine the success of your season. So being early, being decisive, making a good pitch towards a player or half a team, I suppose, is super important in order to secure a roster. And I feel a lot of people rightly feel that they lost the offseason and therefore lost the season. So this is a highly stressful scenario. And therefore, it's perfectly understandable that emotions are high, especially if you have been on the short end of that situation a couple of times. And I think people look at the Glad's rosters and think, well, I mean, they always had high resources and always had these banger lineups. Like, they got like players like Birdring. It's like, bro, they got Birdring super late. I'm not sure anyone else takes a chance on him that season when they picked him up. That's not a like high value signing at the time they did that. They actually made it valuable.
And this is the other thing I was about to add on to what you're saying is like you mentioned how you have 9 months of the year where you're on and 3 months of the year you're off, and I'm in my head I'm like, but do you really? Because you imagine this, you straight away after the season is done are into off season and you're into off season roster shuffling straight away, and you have to get in on these deals and all that kind of stuff, and and this is so hard as well because you're speculating for a brand new game, so that adds to the stress as well. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you have no choice because everyone else is doing it. You must get in off the floor early and start making deals with players as soon as possible. And I wouldn't be surprised. And this is something else has been talked about. Is like there probably are backroom deals made even beforehand. It's not like, hey, are you interested? Like I don't even know if that's legal, but the point is this is very competitive. So being early to the market is very important. And the other thing is, and this is the other criticism that a lot of fans have of Dpei and Gladiators, they like you said, man, Yiska, about like, oh yeah, they always have the big budgets and the big plans, and their success is so low for the amount of money they spend. First of all, you don't actually know how much money they spend. You don't know that at all. So I don't know why people bring that up, like in with such certainty that like it's as if they've looked at the fucking books and accounts of all these teams. Do you actually know how much they've spent or other teams have spent? Like, how do you even make that statement? Second of all, they even if you have money, it doesn't mean you get the exact players you want to build the exact team you want. There are high profile players that will turn you down even if there's more money on the table. We heard the rumors about that. How Nero turned down a higher offer from Houston to go to Shock. Fearless turned down a higher offer from Houston to go to the Dallas Fuel. So it's not like these teams aren't trying. It's not like, just having the big budget doesn't guarantee exactly what you want. And so can you really fault, like, what the fuck else are you supposed to do if you're Houston? You failed to get two of the players that you really wanted. You failed to get Fearless. What else are you supposed to do? You put an offer on the table, and that's it. They didn't take that. They took a lesser offer from another team. What more are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to, like, give them a foot massage too? You're supposed to double your offer? Like, what? Like, there's a limit. And I know on first-hand account that there was a very high-profile signing that Glads wanted that they didn't get for this current offseason. I'm not going to say who, but there was one that was extremely high profile signing that they absolutely did not get. And I'm sure the bag was put on the table there. So, like, it's not, even if you have the money, like, that doesn't necessarily mean everything at the end of the day either. So building your roster in the offseason is super difficult, super stress involved. And it absolutely does prevent. And then again, if you have the delays on top of that, you are going to come late to the party for people that are going to get offers first. And those players might accept those offers far earlier if you don't have your budget locked down or X or Y other factor locked down. So I can see where the frustrations come from.
Yeah. I mean, even just tangibly looking at this, like, are we concerned at all looking at, yes, the Gladiators as it stands currently do have like a sizable roster going in Overwatch 2. I won't speak for everybody, but I don't think they're done, me personally. Are we concerned with just having one coach, or are they going to have to move kind of quickly to fill out the rest of the staff as well?
They are already moving quite quickly to fill out the rest of the staff. Yeah. As far as I know, I'm not going to confirm or deny anything. Look, this isn't. I'm not Halo. I'm not here to leak. I'm just here to try and talk about things that I can talk about and want to talk about. So it's more like, to me, your options are: you are either getting a new head coach in from elsewhere, you're promoting one of your assistant coaches, the only one that's left is face, and that's kind of your options, right? So we can speak about either what head coach is available. I guess supposedly you can get like someone like Get Amazed, but apparently Get Amazed, based on what he's saying, he's not getting a lot of offers or even trials, so it's probably not going to be Get Amazed, because if it was him, he wouldn't be out there saying like, "Hey, I'm not getting anything." So it's not going to be him. But just as to make a point that, who's available, it's guys like Get Amazed, or apparently Kookie's going to New York. So if we believe that, it's not going to be Kookie.
Yeah.
But also, I think Kookie wants to work on a full Korean roster anyway, ideally, and in Korea as well would be nice for him. So I mean, there's not. Who else is really left? I mean, you could get somebody from Contenders. This is where the T2. This is where the crowd. I'm going to talk about this in a second, by the way. This is where the crowd going at McGravy's throw are probably like, "Oh yeah, you should get one of the tier 2 coaches." I'm like, are they proven? Are they proven enough? Would you rather get someone like that, or would you rather promote your current assistant coach into a head coaching role that's already on your team, that already knows what the fuck he's doing?
Yep.
Yeah. Already
has probably spent time building this roster as well. Right?
Exactly.
Has probably been in the talks
intimately. The players know him intimately. Would you rather you want to trust some new guy that you don't even know versus someone you've already worked with? Come on, it's a no-brainer.
Let's talk about that, like, the elephant in the room. Like, I don't understand why people have such a problem imagining Face as the head coach, right? Like, as I think
people have a problem with that.
It feels like a lot of Glads fans are like, "Oh, I'd rather have a guy that was a head coach before." He was.
So who? Yeah. Who do they think? I want some names from these people.
Yeah.
And here, I'll get a Freddy out of it. The names will give me. I get Amazed, and then some tier 2 people probably, or some like Korean coach. Here's the one that's going to tilt me off the face of the fucking earth. Someone's going to bring up O2 boss. It's going to fucking send me. Yeah. I'm going to be on the other side of the room. I'm going to turn my camera off and turn my microphone off as I yell into the void if someone says that shit. It will send me.
Can you explain why for those not aware?
I just don't. I need to understand what it is that why people look at certain coaches and think what they think, and all that. It's not. Let me put on record. It's not that I don't think he's good or he's not worthy or anything like that. For me, it's this thing about this notion about, like, I made this tweet on Twitter because I don't know if I wanted to make it or not, but I was angry enough to do it. Was that, people don't actually know what coaches do, what makes them good, and what value they actually bring to a team. People do not know that. They absolutely do not.
Yeah.
But unfortunately they pretend they do. Unfortunately, they speak with absolute certainty, like they fucking know what everyone does and how they coach and what actually they bring to the team and how good they were. No one actually knows. So you know what these people do? You know what these people online do? They will throw out random names of people who they think they're good, and the reason why they think they're good is literally, coach win? Oh, must mean they're good.
Yeah.
Did they lose?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess they're bad then. That is literally what they do. That is literally how people's brains online work. My bigger problem is, like, admit you know nothing then. Just say you don't know anything. Why speak with such certainty about things like this when you actually don't know shit?
Yep.
And then you're like, oh no, you got to pick up this person because of blah blah. You got to get it. Make sure you Get Amazed on there. I'm like, why? Yeah. I'm not saying Get Amazed shouldn't be there. No one can give me a real reason why outside of, well, he went 8-8 with the Paris tournament. Like, was that all you got? Is that literally it? Is that literally your argument? Because let me break some news to you, buddy. If you put either coach of the year, Moon or Rush, on the LA Valiant this year, I promise you LA Valiant still shit the fucking bed. Would you still think they're a good coach? You probably wouldn't anymore, because if you're a zero head and all you look at is results, you probably think Moon and Rush are fucking garbage coaches. But then clearly they can't be good coaches. Well, the argument should be like, well, clearly they are good coaches because they led their teams to victory, and Rush did a great job in Dallas working with, I would say, a roster that didn't have all its pieces there to make it work. He had to kind of invent his own metas, right?
Yeah.
So clearly, I think Russia's a good coach. There's some things that you could really look at to get a good idea of what makes a coach maybe a little bit better, maybe have a clear idea.
Yeah.
But it's the fucking zero head take would be like, if you put him on a bad team and he has bad results, then obviously he's going to go do badly. Does that mean now that he's a bad coach? Because the really stupid way of thinking about it is just applying literal results into how good somebody is at their job, which is just completely false.
Yep. It's not like people are familiarizing themselves with either the character or the contents of the ideas that these coaches have. It's not like coaching interview content does like insane numbers and everyone is filled in. You have some better metrics out there other than win rates. You're just choosing not to take that one. And to be fair, like, of course, there's a lot of noise in the eloquence of a coach that could mask over their ability, but like, you can look at their ideas and how they translate to the actual server and then relate it there. But I don't know, like everything else is just narrative analysis that should be readily discarded and not highly upvoted, as they are in every single thread that you see.
Also, how do these people think head coaches, where do they come from? Is there like some head coaching factory that they're made at?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, assistant coaches get promoted to head coaches. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow, that's so, oh my God, I could never have imagined that. Crazy. How wild is that? Did you know that head coaches are usually coming from assistant coaches being promoted? Fuck, that's a concept that like fucking most of the population apparently doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Wow, how wild is that? Did you think head coaches get churned out of a fucking factory? Come on.
Yeah. And I think what is fair, like there's definitely certain different tiers of Overwatch League, right? Like,
Sure.
You could say, yeah, maybe the new head coaches should try their hand first on the lesser teams. Let's say that, right? Try to get something going there. And not drive, which might still be one of the most well-budgeted teams in the Overwatch League immediately, right? The thing is, like, it is completely discarding what potential impact FaZe might have had on that team as well, right?
Yep.
So, like, knowing, for instance, scouting, I always, like, that's something that you, as the viewer, can totally, like, get an idea of. Look at who he scouted for Talon. Look at how, like, this team scouted this year. Who popped off despite...
FaZe got skewed, by the way. FaZe scouted skewed.
There we go. Yeah.
But people don't give him credit for that. People don't give him credit for that. They don't acknowledge that.
Yep. Yeah.
But they'll go ahead and say, "Oh, I think we should get someone that's been a head coach before." Name that person, motherfucker. Name that person.
And he got a baller roster this season. He got that all together. And I guess we'll talk about the new guys in a second.
Are we ready? Are we ready to go on the roster, or are you guys?
Yeah, sure.
Any final thoughts?
No, let's get into
Joe,
it.
any final thoughts on?
Oh yeah, I think eloquently said from the both of you.
Cool.
I agree with those things.
The podcast before the podcast has concluded. Welcome officially to 198. We're getting to the roster talk now. Boom. Okay, we're obviously going to start with Gladiators, number one, the number one team, because we're going to transition from Dpei and Gladiators and where their coaching staff is going into this topic straight away, because some big announcements from Gladiators. Some of it, let's be real, Astro was already leaked. Space, I would say, is fairly safe to say that he would probably come back unless somebody else, like a Shock or somebody, was going to give him a crazy bag and then also quote unquote maybe guarantee him some starting time. I would say that Space coming back to Gladiators was a very safe bet, so I don't think that's the biggest news. But then, oh my goodness, ANS out of nowhere. Holy shit. I'm big on ANS personally. I'm very big on ANS. And then Reiner coming in. I don't know as much about Reiner, but I've heard that he's fantastic in the tier 2 scene. So I'm glad they're taking a bit of a chance on him. And they will keep the pieces they know are good, like Space. Like, I'm sure that Space is probably going to be the designated starter on the tank, now the solo tank position. But you got Reiner in the background to kind of fill in the gaps if Space's hero pool's lacking. So there's a decent amount of safety in here. And my God, is like ANS still just a piping hot player in terms of how good this guy is.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like people people might think about it as like, oh, that's a bit of a hot take. Did you see his season? I did see his season, but I also did see the fact that Hitscan was pretty garbage this season. And I don't know about you, but Shock had some internal issues about, who was going to be playing, working out their roster. They had this huge roster they were trying to juggle around with, and different people were playing different stuff at various points. It was a bit of a mess. I don't think the meta or Shock really did justice to ANS this year. And I think a fresh start in Overwatch 2 where Hitscan could be mega strong. I personally think Hitscan is going to be very strong in Overwatch 2. ANS is your guy because ANS still, to me, does the craziest things and has the highest peak in Hitscan performance I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. To quote you, AVRL, specifically, I think ANS is probably the best third DPS player that you could get. For a lot of the same reasons, right? We all remember the 56% headshot accuracy game where he just takes over against Philly and quite literally punishes the most absurd angles possible, right? Like without it's those actual dominant performances where somebody's actually taking over a game and putting up stats that really beg belief. First it was Dpei with, I think it was 37%, and then ANS says hold my beer and does stuff like that. So that is something you can kind of count on. I understand the hesitancy with looking at this last season, but two big, like AVRL said, two big factors kind of, stand in the way of that criticism that I don't think are necessarily fair when you look at how the highs of what he did in 2020. That's, I don't know that we have back-to-back champions in the San Francisco Shock without ANS, right? That's I don't think that's too bold to say. So having Gladiators make that kind of move to secure what I think is a superstar role player is fantastic. Do I think they're done with their DPS rotation? No, I think you need somebody to kind of complement Kevster across a wider variety of heroes. But I think ANS, I put this in some content recently, is the best break in case of emergency player you can sign. If there
I think
is
they need
hit
one more.
scan, yeah, I
They
agree.
only need one more. I think they need one more DPS, and that's even if they really, really, because apparently Reiner can play DPS. He used to be one. No, but I think two. This is ANS Kevster is a phenomenal start, and then maybe one more player that's a little bit flexible.
Yep.
And then you're good to go.
Yep.
So honestly, I'm crazy, but I think maybe they can even get Mirror back. I'm just looking objectively from in a vacuum. Obviously, I don't know what it's like to work with Mirror on a team. But assuming they like Mirror as a guy and as a coworker, Mirror is the kind of guy that just fills so many extra gaps in your hero pools just around it. That's what he did for the team this year, and I think he did it, adequately. And I don't know that Mirror wants to be that guy though, so that's maybe the only side tangent. But maybe he doesn't want to be that guy. He's just there to play the silly heroes and fill out the hero pool. Maybe he wants to be a starting player instead. But I don't know. I think they only need one more player, and then
Who
they're
else
solid.
could it be though?
I mean,
That's a free agent.
That's a tough one.
Okay, let me ask more specifically. In 2021 or /2022, is EQO still good enough to be on a roster like this?
It's too hard to say. It's too hard to say. I think there's a lot of unknowns about the next game. Based on what he did this year, I think his hero pool is interesting and that it can cover some decent bases. But I think EQ would most likely end up being a potential bench player for this team. I don't know. Maybe you go into double flex DPS. Maybe DPS hero pools are so required to be so flexible in the next game that you're going to have two guys that can play a lot of stuff.
Can I throw a name at you?
Maybe ANS ends up being the problem because he doesn't play enough, and he's going to have to improve his hero pool by a lot.
I think that might be tough. It's certainly possible, right? We saw him play some wider variety of heroes than we're giving him credit for on the Shock, but it's definitely the dedicated hit scan role that he kind of thrives in. Is there any possible way we see the return of Patafan?
Oh,
any shot?
Oh shit. Well, here we go. Let me put it out there for you. Face has worked with Patapana before, so there's some familiarity there. I think if there's any coach that would actually go for Patapana, it probably would be Face. If he is in a position, let's just work with what we got. He's the only coach remaining, so I'm just gonna work with. He's the only coach on the team currently. Right. That's what I'm working on. he has a connection to Patapan. The bigger question was, would Patapan want to come back? Because
Sure.
Patapan is doing
Yeah.
well enough in Valorant that he might not want to come back. I don't think that he would potentially want to come back. Also, you'd have to hope that he would come back and be popping off, and that he hasn't been washed from playing
Right.
Valorant for too long. Which he's been good enough at 2 games. I think he probably could be. He's a kid that like might just be a child prodigy in gaming, because he was like, in my opinion, at a very fucking high level, at least individual on mechanics for Overwatch, and then did the same thing in Valorant. So maybe he'll just come back and pound, but it's not impossible. But I think it's a very outside option. I think the clear options to me is somebody that's a bit more of a known quantity rather, like Mirror. But maybe if you're Glides, you're looking for something with a bit more firepower. But if you're gonna go in that direction, you need to be, I don't know, dropping something. You got to be.
Oh yeah, agreed.
For
I don't
something
hate the Mirror pick. I think that kind of like you said, he's kind of a unicorn in a way. Like there aren't too many other players that you there's probably a list of them that you can keep on one hand that can play the heroes he has shown throughout his career at a very high level. And it also kind of references Yiska's point that I think he made last show, talking about like the DPS maybe stepping into the tank role. Like, you know, that kind of role fluidity could be coming back within this game, because we don't really know what tanks are supposed to be doing. Well, we don't even know what tanks are going to actually do in the game. So having that flexibility might actually be at a premium. I don't hate Mirror coming back to this team.
I don't know if it's their best option. It's just something I put out
Yeah,
there. It's
I
just
agree.
something I put out to the world. I'm like, I'm sure there could be like better options out there in terms of like, you know, somebody else that might be a slightly higher quality player, but like just.
You know, I'm kind of jealous of those multiverses that have everything else the same, just proper to Glads. Whew, baby.
Literally the new
spicy.
Dpei. That's literally just the new Dpei at that point.
Damn, that would be so
dude, you are cheating. You are smurfing in this league if you have proper ANS Kevster. Like, fuck me. Like, either one of those guys could be an MVP or a role star, and all 3 of them probably role stars.
Yeah.
You are actually smurfing in this league if you're doing that. Just stop before I get too erect. Where will we go to next? I think that's pretty much Glad's done for now. I think everyone's pretty happy with their team. I don't know if anyone had any particular thoughts on Reiner. Obviously, Goliaths have taken risks on tier 2 tanks before.
Yes.
And it's been, I'd say Muze had a good run. That being said, though, Dpei did in his tell-all stream that Muze wasn't great on the Rhine, so that's why they play mostly dive. Although, to be fair, they also lucked out on that because they ended up playing the quote-unquote correct meta based on what Shanghai were doing. So not only do they kind of luck out on avoiding one of Muse's bad heroes and one of their bad comps, but they played something they were good. That's also why Moth didn't play, because Moth was going to be there for the Lucio, but they never played Lucio comps.
Yep.
So who knows?
Initial research regarding Reiner, I hear that he's probably one of the better main tank options looking at Overwatch 2 from the West. Very flexible, a big playmaker, but perhaps needs to be in the right system to kind of facilitate that. So I think this is very much a Glad signing where it's like, okay, this could work. This could be a skewed. Not in the sense that it's like a diamond in the rough, because it's very much obvious that Reiner is talented. But it's just, how does he fit within this roster? That's kind of where my research meets my own opinion.
Gladiators have the necessary safety net in space. So
exactly.
it's a safe risk. It's a very safe risk for them to take with Reiner, because if it doesn't work out, I mean, Space is probably going to be the starter anyway, and they're very happy with Space. I'm happy with Space. I think Space is going to be one of the tanks to look at. I'm talking like he's some up and coming player. No, he's a veteran, and he's a great player, and he'll be great. So Toronto now. Speaking of Muze, who is no longer with the Gladiators, he's rumored to be on Toronto, but Toronto above that have also then further announced Hotba joining the team from Philly Fusion, and also Mobydick from Philly Fusion. So part of me looks at Toronto like, in a way, Toronto going into next year is more Philly Fusion than Philly Fusion is. They've actually just taken so many players and staff members and all this kind of stuff from Philly Fusion that, like, you've actually got most of these like Philly refugees now just on Toronto. You got the KDG Mobydick duo on there, Hisu's still on there as well, and then you got Hotba joining there. On top of that, you have Twilight and Muses Twilight's on there, Muze is rumored. It's starting to look like a very good Toronto team. Like on paper, this is an exciting team, a team to be excited about.
Yeah, I think I can't sing enough the praises of Mobydick. I've heard a lot of good things behind the scenes about his coaching and how intelligent he is. So I think that's a great signing. I've been a big fan of Muze for a long time. So if that comes to fruition, fabulous. I think that's great. I have been a big Hotba hater in the past. Don't get me wrong. But it's to a point now where enough coaches that I respect see something in him that I have to go, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the idiot in the room. And it's very likely that's the case because I'm operating with like very limited information in front of me. I've always thought that he's been fine, right? But is that something that you're wanting to bank on going into Overwatch 2? Me personally, from my perspective, no, it's not. Maybe there's some intangibles. Maybe there's more that I'm not seeing. Maybe there's more things. Maybe he's a scrim god. I don't know what it is, but enough coaches have put their faith in him that it's okay. Maybe
Sure.
Got to give him a shot, right? Got to give him a chance.
It's the Coca-Cola sponsorship money. Coke love him, and whatever team has started on their team, Coke is just throwing money at them.
Fair. It's tough. Hotba's. I'm waiting to be impressed. I'm waiting to see what they see. However, outside of that,
I got Hotba confused with Sato, but don't mind me. Yeah. I'm high.
I like the rest of the roster. I'll say that. I like where they're going direction wise. I just pray, please.
Whoever Sato and Hotba not the same person. I'm in a different world currently.
Okay. My last prayer, I'll light a candle to this. I don't know that the powers that be, whoever the puppeteer is at the Toronto Defiant, please no random Western players. Just please, no beasts, no God bless Logics. Happy to see you somewhere else. Just no random Western players.
You didn't like his Aspire? Even though Aspire kind of saved them a little bit.
He came in clutch. He was a great role player, but I think that you can't bank on that 9 times out of 10, right?
Who's going to be kept out of the group chat then?
Nobody, because there won't need to be anybody to keep out. Please do not do that again.
I just imagine the one Western player on their team, like, after scrims, everyone's like, good job, guys. And then all the Koreans go and hang out and they go in the group chat and they do their own thing and they have a laugh. And you just got this one Western player on the outside of the Toronto facility that they play, the overactive media esports facility. And he's just out there with a frosted glass, like looking like he wants to come in for Christmas dinner, just being kept out of his team. Oh, I can't wait for that.
Can I say, even with the rumors,
okay,
why? I'm not feeling it yet, dude. Twilight was a good beginning, but like,
yeah,
is this really like a better start than they had in terms of their signings from last year? Because theoretically speaking, they had a pretty good roster last year. They had a bunch of like the runner-up of the regular season, Philly Fusion.
Yeah,
they had some highly hyped rookies. Yeah. They probably had, if not then one of the best tanks of the season prior.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't get it together. How is that what we're currently seeing substantially different than the attempts from last year?
Mobydick.
Sure.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be a factor in that. I think the
Well, unfortunately, technical difficulties got us, guys. During the episode, I got an OBS crash, and we lost over half of the podcast, as you can see. So all of the audio tracks until 2:45 from 108 are completely gone. Not recoverable. That means for us, because we also have other production stuff to do for TCP this week, that we won't be re-recording these topics, but we will add them to 199. So if you're missing some of the trade rumors or transfer discussions, that is coming next week. We're sorry for a short episode, but I hope once episode 200 comes along, you guys will understand why we couldn't find the time this week to re-record. Thank you.